Do you deny yourself? You see, that's a very important question regarding your spiritual growth. The Lord Jesus told his disciples, "If anyone will come after me, let him deny himself." Christ's way was through sufferings into glory. And this is also the way for every one of his disciples. And therefore Christ, he told his disciples what they had to do if they wanted to follow him. And the very first thing that he mentions is self-denial. And he himself exemplified in his life what it means to live a life of self-denial. As it is written in Romans chapter 15, Christ did not please himself. You see, instead of pleasing himself and insisting upon his own rights, Christ longed to please his Father, and he showed a fervent zeal for his interests. The Lord Jesus, he was, for example, the Lord of the temple. And in Matthew chapter 17, when people came to gather the temple tax, the Lord Jesus was willing to pay the temple tax, although he had no need to do it. But he told his disciples that we may not be an offense to them, let us sacrifice our rights and do it. What an example of self-denial. You see, the Apostle Paul lived a life of self-denial. He could sincerely say in 1 Corinthians 9, "To all I have become all things, in order that at all events I might save some. And I do all things for the sake of the glad tidings, that I may be fellow partaker with them." You see, Paul lived for the gospel, and he denied himself so that many people could be reached by the gospel. To the elders of Ephesus, the Apostle Paul said, "But I make no account of my life as dear to myself, so that I finish my course." That was a life of self-denial. And in his letters, Paul exhorts believers to deny self, and he does that over and over again. I'll give you two examples. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 24 says, "Let no one seek his own advantage, but that of the other." Or in Romans chapter 15, "But we that are strong, to bear the infirmities of the weak, and not to please ourselves. Let each one of us please his neighbor with a view to what is good, to edification. For the Christ also did not please himself." You see, Paul, he denied himself, and that's why he had the moral authority to also exhort others to follow him in his example. And Paul himself followed the example of the Lord Jesus Christ, who denied himself and who did not insist on his own rights. And let me ask you this question: is it your desire to please your fellow believer and to sacrifice your rights so that you may not be a stumbling block or an offense to others? Our flesh hates self-denial, for the flesh always wants to put self on the throne. But to deny self means practically to put self to death. And baptism is really like an acknowledgement that the old self-life is at an end. It says in Romans chapter 6, verse 4, it is written there, buried with him by baptism unto death. So that means we have died with Christ and we have been buried with Christ. Self has passed away. And the following story is a very nice illustration of this truth. There was a man who had been baptized, and after he came up out of the water, there was a pipe that was found in the water. Now they got it out and they asked this man, "Is this yours?" And he said, "No, it belonged to the man that you have just buried." It's a nice illustration. The old life is over. Self-denial is like a complete surrender under the authority of Christ. Self has no more rights. It practically means not my, but thy will be done. There's no envy or jealousy in a heart that is empty of self. You see, already at the time of the Apostle Paul, he had to say, all seek their own things and not the things of Jesus Christ. And today, God is looking for those who make a difference. Are you willing to deny yourself? When have you done that for the last time? We read in 2 Corinthians 5, verse 15, He died for all, that they who live should no longer live to themselves, but to Him. So let us put that into practice with the help of the Lord.